Ieuan and the Fleece, Part 1, Chapter 3, Jason. Our tale begins many years ago. When I came to your village last year, I told the story of the great siege of the city of Troy and of the war that waged for 10 years before the city fell. Shouted Ieuan before his father tapped him on the head, reminding him that a guest, especially a storyteller, should not be interrupted. The story I shall tell tonight tells of the fathers of some of the Greek heroes of the Trojan War, and of a great adventure that was told of again and again during that long siege. There was in those days a city with a good and just king who ruled over it. But the king had a brother who was jealous and wanted to rule himself. He overthrew and banished his brother, and would have killed his brother's son, Jason, had not his clever father, after a warning in a dream, had the baby Jason taken away in the night to a place far away where he would be safe. Jason grew up under the care of his adopted parents. They had no idea who he was, but having no children of their own, were happy to have the boy to bring up. Jason grew into a fine young man, and as he grew, he had the sense that he should be doing something more than helping his adopted parents on their small farm. He knew he was supposed to be doing something more, but did not know what. His parents had never given Jason any indication that he was not their natural child, and did not want to do so now, because they feared what might happen to him if he returned to seek his inheritance. They could not stop him from following his heart, though. So, in his 18th year, he headed down from his mountain home towards, although he did not know it, the city of his birth. After 2 days' journeying, he came to a wide river, beside which sat an old woman. "Carry me across the river, Jason," she asked him. Jason was more than a little surprised at this. "How do you know my name?" he asked her. "I know many things," she replied, "and when you take me over the river, I shall tell you more." So Jason bent down and allowed the old woman to climb on his back so that he could carry her over the river. The first thing Jason noticed was how heavy the old woman was, much more than expected, and he struggled to wade the river with her weight on his back. When they reached the other side, Jason very thankfully put the old woman down on the bank. At this point, Jason realised he had lost one of his sandals in the water, but there was no chance of retrieving it. He was still pondering why the woman had been so heavy when she started to speak. "I know why you are going to the city," she told him. "You are Jason. Your uncle sits on the throne where your grandfather used to sit, the throne on which your father should have sat, and the throne which should be yours." Jason was shocked at this news. He had known a long while that he had some sort of destiny, and now he knew what it was. "Go that way," said the old woman, pointing north. Jason looked in the direction she showed and saw the path led between two big hills. He turned to the woman, but she was no longer anywhere to be seen. Jason called her and looked all around. There seemed to be nowhere she could be hiding, and was baffled. He decided that he might as well follow her direction, and that was when he remembered his sandal. But, one sandal being better than none on the stony path, he walked on. Had Jason not been caught up in thoughts of the old woman's words, he may have given some time to the puzzle of her weight, but it quickly slipped from his mind. "I can, though, explain it to you, my friends," said Cadno, pausing for the effect on his audience, and taking the opportunity to drink from the mead cup. The old woman was in fact a goddess, Cadno continued with his story. She was Hera, queen of the gods of that land. She had adopted Jason and had decided to help him, mainly because Zeus, her husband and king of the gods, had taken a dislike to him. Such is sometimes the way with both gods and mortals. Jason could not see her, but Hera watched as he walked for the rest of the morning up the path and through the hills until he saw below him the city. He then followed the easier path down it until eventually he arrived at the gate in late afternoon. Now Jason's uncle Peleus had been told long ago by a cunning man to beware a youth wearing one shoe, and he had told all of the guards of the city that if they were ever to see a young man with one shoe, they were to tell him immediately. So, as Jason came through the gate, a guard was already running to tell his uncle, who had chanced to prepare himself for the meeting. Jason walked through the city, and the wide path led naturally to the king's great house or palace. As he approached the door, the guard stood aside and waved him inside, where Peleus sat on his high chair ready to greet him. "Welcome, Jason, the nephew for whom I have waited and kept the throne these long years. Now that you are here, maybe the country can become peaceful and prosperous again." Peleus had stolen the kingdom from his brother, and that was the main reason for the poor state of the land. The people resented him. He was not a good ruler in any way, and he had allowed different factions to develop so that no one was strong enough to oppose or even question him. "Is the country not peaceful and prosperous now?" asked Jason. "Come, sit and eat, and I shall tell you of your country," said Peleus, motioning to a seat beside him, which was for some reason vacant. Curious at the king's head table. Had he been expected? Then Peleus proceeded to tell Jason the tale that he had prepared for him. "Your country is unhappy, poor, divided in itself," he began. And after telling Jason how bad a state the country was, even though he himself was not to blame, he had done his best. "I would happily hand you the crown right now, but an unknown boy like you cannot unite the country again. You need something more. And, by chance, a few days ago, I heard of the very thing." Peleus then proceeded to tell Jason about a magical fleece made of pure gold that was kept by a wise and kind king many miles away to the east in a city called Colchis. Whoever owned the fleece could make more gold than he could use. The king, who had it now, kept all the gold for himself and his people. But, Peleus told Jason, if he were to explain to King Aeetes what a poor state his own kingdom was in, he would gladly gift Jason the fleece, and if he brought it to his home, he could share the gold amongst all his people. Then everyone would be rich, happy, and Jason could rule over a prosperous and peaceful land. Jason was young. He had not yet learned the ways of the world and was an easy target for Peleus' lies. Even if Jason were to travel the distance to Colchis and survive the perils of the journey, there was no chance of Aeetes giving up his fleece. Peleus wanted rid of Jason and expected him to die one way or the other. This way, Peleus could not be blamed. He had outwitted the long-feared man with one shoe, and very soon would be rid of him forever. Cadno paused and looked around the roundhouse. He did not need to see if his audience were paying attention. Every eye was upon him, and every ear waiting for his next words.